I wanted to come on here quickly and just share something with you that has been really tugging on my heart. And it started yesterday when I was watching the first court appearance of this youngster, the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist whose life was tragically taken away from his family, which is absolutely horrific, and it sent shockwaves through, I think, every person that has some evidence of the Spirit of God in them, or some evidence of humanity, should I actually say. If it didn't disturb you, then I question whether you are, a human. But something that concerns me is I'm seeing a lot of these, Christian evangelicals, these social media influencers that would, be more on the Christian nationalist side. And we have to understand, Christian nationalism, I don't support Christian nationalism. I don't support radical leftism. I don't support radical right-wing conservatism. I don't support any far end of any side of the spectrum, because I believe both are potentially dangerous. And I know what I'm going to say is going to disturb a lot of people. You're going to hate me for this. You're going to think I'm a lefty well, I'm a left-handed person, but what I mean, obviously political views. But something overwhelmed me yesterday, and I want to plead to the Christian community to, I know we want to honor the man that's life was, taken so tragically, and we have to understand something here. Charlie's with Jesus. Okay, he's not worried about what's happening here right now. He's in glory, in the fullness of glory. He's in fullness of joy. He's with Jesus. And we feel as a Christian community, we need to keep posting, quotes that Charlie said, and videos, clips of him and everything, which is understandable, it's commendable. But I think maybe we tend to get too carried away in Christian circles, especially Christian nationalists who have social media platforms that influence, millions across the globe. We tend to become too radical, where we can put someone on a level of, the level of Christ. They do it with Donald Trump as well. We've had crazy prophecies about people saying, they saw visions of Donald Trump on a throne in heaven, and it gets really crazy. And this is the danger that I see. And I'm starting to see a lot of respected prophetic voices now connecting what happened to some deep prophetic mystery in the Bible, and then they're using the time that Charlie was killed, and they link it up to a verse, John 12 verse 63 or something, if I'm correct. I might be wrong with the actual details there, but you understand how it can get really, really crazy. But all the while this is happening, and the Christian community is demanding justice, and I will be guilty when I first, I'll admit, when I first heard about this, when it happened, the day it happened or the day after it happened, there was rage and hate in my heart, and I was crying for justice. And I said, this person, I actually refer to them as it needs to, be locked away for life, or they need to face the death penalty. And obviously, I was reacting out of emotion, which is natural, and demanding justice, demanding that this person gets caught and executed. But yesterday, the love and the compassion of the Lord for this youngster came over me, and it overwhelmed me to such an extent where the Lord started to pour out revelation to me, and He started to tell me that, we are missing it here in the church, because we are demanding justice. We are demanding, and a lot of saying, the revival is going to take place because of what happened to Charlie, and the revival is going to take place because it's exposing, the left, liberals, and how satanic and inhumane and violent they are. And all the while, I think there's too much focus and energy from the church demanding justice and exposure, when I believe that energy, the prayers, should be directed towards this young man. And I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. My prayer, based on the fact that I know Charlie's in heaven in the fullness of love and glory of Jesus, I'm praying that some Christian that understands the level and dimension of the love of the Christ that we so profess to worship and follow, I believe that somebody that walks in that dimension of the power of the love of Christ will somehow get in contact with this young man and reveal the love of Christ to him, so that he can be freed from the demonic prison that he's in. Because it's likely that he's going to either spend the rest of his life in jail, or he's going to face the death penalty. His life's over. But I think this is a desperate cry from the Lord, that this young man needs to be set free. He needs to encounter the Christ of the Bible, the Christ that walked, the shores of Galilee, the Christ of Nazareth, the one that went to the cross, the one that shed his blood, the one that rose from the dead. He needs to encounter Jesus. And might I add, that is this not maybe the key that will bring in the greatest move of God? Because it's quite clear that, and I said it before, the evidence that's starting to surface now, this thing is been shaken at the very foundation, because now they're talking about that it's possible this youngster with many others are linked to an unseen organization that is using the youth that support a left-wing ideology, like this youngster apparently did, using them to create an uproar and a resistance against a left-wing conservative movement. I'm not praying for Charlie. Charlie's with Jesus. Am I praying for his family? Absolutely yes. Am I praying that justice be served? To be honest with you, I'm not really praying that justice be served. I am praying, my prayer is that some Christian that understands, that walks in the dimension and understands the revelation of the Christ and the love of Christ, would somehow get in contact with this young man, be able to reach out to him and reveal to him the love of Jesus Christ, so that this young man can be set free from the demonic prison that he's in, the chains that he's wrapped in. And I really paid close attention. I was checking his mannerisms out and his reactions to when they said, possible death penalty, and he just nods and he puts his head down, and there was an overwhelming compassion. And I believe it is Christ through me, the Christ through me. And this same Christ through me needs to be manifest and revealed tangibly to this young man, so that he can be liberated, so that his soul does not end up in a lost eternity. Because right now, we don't even know. There's so much uncertainty. Things are starting to surface now, and I actually said it in a post a few days ago. I don't believe this is a lone wolf thing. This is connected to some unseen organization that is vicariously using the youth of America that have, left-wing ideologies, to put guns in their hands and to put an ideology into their minds and hearts with hate that is godless, that is based on a Luciferian ideology and belief, that stirs this hate within them, that moves them towards a reprobate mind, that they won't think twice about pulling a trigger and shooting somebody that's innocent, that has a family. So once again, please, I know I'm going to get flack for this. I absolutely condemn what happened. It shook me to the core. Charlie's in fullness of glory with Jesus. He's not concerned about what's happening here. And let me add this. We will be so deeply disturbed if we knew what is actually happening here. There's an unseen organization that is using the youth of America to stir violence, chaos, and to silence those who are being used by God to speak the truth. And my cry, my plea to the Christian community, specifically to prophets and Christian nationalists, drop the justice cry here. Just leave the justice cry, leave that to God. And turn your focus towards the heart of Jesus, that would be focused on praying for this young individual to encounter the power of the love and grace of Christ that we are supposed to profess and manifest and reveal to the world. Because might I add, maybe this is the key. Imagine if this youngster can encounter Jesus in his prison cell tonight. Somebody comes to him and manifests Christ to him, and he has a manifestation, an encounter, and a revelation of Jesus. Can you imagine what will happen? Because it's these youngsters that have direct contact and communication to their Discord groups and their social media networks, to these other youngsters that are out there that might be thinking of doing the same thing, that might be also being used by this unseen satanic organization that is vicariously using the youngsters, the young generation, to do their dirty work and to silence the truth tellers. So that is my plea. Stop trying to grab deep prophetic connections to Charlie Kirk and what he said. Charlie Kirk is not worried about that right now. Okay, he's in the fullness of glory with Jesus. And let's focus and move our attention towards redeeming and delivering people like this. Because this youngster, 22-year-old, he had his whole life ahead of him. Okay, if he really did pull the trigger, then obviously, justice must be served. But I cry out to his soul, for his soul. And I believe it was the Lord that overwhelmed me yesterday to send this message. And I hope that, it'll turn the attention within our own faith circles. Focus on the love of Christ, and to reach out to people like this that are in need of an encounter and a revealing of Christ. And how's it going to come? It's going to come through the church. It's going to come through intercessors, through people that pray and understand the level and revelation of this love of Christ, which I believe the church has still not grasped yet. We are still missing it. We are missing it. We are focused on, forget about Christian nationalism. This is a movement towards radical leftism, which, like I say, is just as dangerous. If you reach to the far end of Christian nationalism, listen carefully, you end up with Pharisaical religious Christianity, which will enforce certain laws that will also violate what the American Constitution stands for, which is freedom of speech and freedom of religion and etc., etc. It's another animal that you do not want to stand for if it had to, take the forefront. So remember, this youngster, he grew up as a hunter. And growing up as a hunter, and I know there's a lot of Christians that love hunting, I'm not against hunting, but this youngster grew up killing, or he grew up in bloodshed, killing animals. So it's not so difficult to transition and make the switch to kill a human, especially if you grow up, not believing in God. The church wants to escape. They're waiting for the rapture on the 23rd or 24th of September. But the church is not walking in the dimension of the love of Christ. They're waiting to escape. When all the while the command from Jesus is not to wait for the rapture. There's no instruction for us to wait for the rapture. We are told to be ready, obviously. We are told to, occupy until he comes. But we are told to preach the message of the gospel, which is the love of Jesus and the manifestation of the kingdom that will go to places, and like where this youngster is, into his dark place that he is enslaved in, while there's still time before he faces execution. So let's focus on the important thing here. Let's leave the secondary issues. Let's not try and be deep and try and connect Charlie Kirk's life and his profession to some a prophetic thing, and let's focus on what the Lord wants us to focus on. So tell me what you think in the comments. This is what I believe the Lord was, really, really overwhelming me with yesterday. And the church needs to get back to the love of Christ.